Hello everybody. Today we're going to take a look at the three different emergency light functions. Okay. Now in Australia we have our emergency lighting comes in three different functions. Okay. It's probably the same around the whole world. I don't really know. Okay, but the three functions are non-maintained, maintained, and sustained. Okay, so they're the three functions that the emergency lights come in. Okay. Now those functions mean that the fitting operates in three different manners, okay? And I'm going to tell you what they are, okay? We're going to use these three lights here for the demonstration. We've got a super light from Clevertronics, we've got one of their double wire guard battens, and we've got a bare batten. Okay, now all of these are emergency lights and they come in, three different functions, okay? Depending on which one you get, okay? Now, of course, these are all the newer ones. The newer Clevertronics battens have these emergency pods on the ends of them. The older ones never did. They always used to use the tube as the emergency light, but the time has changed. Okay, a lot of companies are actually have done this as well. Okay, so it's not just Clevertronics. Thomas and Betts have a batten like this with an emergency on the end. Okay, and some other brands. Okay. So we're going to talk about the functions and see how they work, okay? So the three functions, like I said, you've got non-maintained, you've got maintained, and you've got sustained. Okay, so what do those functions mean? Well, we're going to find out. So, the non-maintained. This super light that I have here is a non-maintained function. Okay, so what that means is that when there's power, the emergency lamps, which these are, remain off, okay? The emergency lights will remain off, okay, until the power is cut, okay? So or if you press the test button on the side, it'll come on, okay? Now all these newer Clevertronics stuff, you do get Clevertest Plus, which is automatic testing. Okay, so the only time you should see this on when there's power is if it's testing, okay? So with Clevertest Plus, okay, so I'll show you this up. Any emergency light from Clevertronics that has that little symbol there has Clevertest Plus embedded. Okay, so if the emergency light's on, you see that indicator flashing green and yellow. That means it's testing. Okay, so that's normal. Okay, it's supposed to do that. All right. Now the older Clevertronics lights don't have that. They did have Clevertest, but it was a little different. Okay, so right now there's power, so there's no need for this to be on. So that's the function non-maintained. But if I unplug it, the power is now off and it comes on. Okay, so it will remain on until the power comes back on. Okay, so as soon as the power is restored, it goes off. Okay, or it will remain on until the battery, of course, goes flat. So now with these Clevertronics lithium batteries, L10, LP and EL, they'll last for about 5 hours, okay, and then they'll go flat. Okay, so like I said, this is non-maintained, so in order for this to illuminate, I have to unplug it, okay? So if I were to use this as a torch, which I actually do plan on doing, I still need to get a switch for it. Okay, so what that means, because it's non-maintained, I can't charge and use it at the same time. So I actually have to have it unplugged in order for it to illuminate. Okay, so now that it's on, it will illuminate. Okay, and it will light up the area. Okay, and it will remain on until the battery is flat or until the power is restored. Oh, now I've plugged it back in and it's staying on. That's because it's gone into test mode, but I can cancel that by pressing and holding the button. And there we go. Okay, so that's non-maintained. Okay, so any fitting that you see that looks like this is probably this function. Okay, but you can get them in different functions. Okay, the Clevertronics Life-Light fittings are non-maintained as well. So that's that. All right, so that's the non-maintained. So I'm just going to put this off to the side. All right, next is maintained. Okay, so this is So this batten I have here is a Clevertronics WireGuard batten, and it is a maintained function. So what that means is that you can use it while there's power. Okay, so I can flick the switch, and you can see that the emergency lamp also illuminates. Okay, so it can be switched on and off by the switch. Okay, so this is the emergency lamp. Okay, but I can use it as a normal light because it's maintained, and of course I have the tubes as well. Okay, so because this is maintained, I can charge and use it at the same time. Okay, but if it was on and the power went out, it would still remain on. Okay, and as soon as power is restored, it stays on until I switch the switch off, of course. Now, when this is switched off, it's basically like this fitting here. It's like the non-maintained. Okay, it becomes a non-maintained when you switch it off. Okay, but if it's switched on, you can use it as a normal light. Okay. But as soon as the power fails, of course that stays on. But the tubes, of course, the battery doesn't power them. The tubes will not illuminate when there's no power. But this will. Okay? And now it's plugged in, but the emergency light is still running. Okay? Let me just... Oop. No, that's not supposed to happen, is it? Okay, I'll worry about that later. Okay, so like I said, okay, right now there's power. I can switch it on. As you can see, it is on. I can unplug it. It will still remain on. Plug it back in and it stays on. But once I switch it off, it goes off. Okay, so maintained. So you'll find this function in exit signs. Okay, so exit signs are maintained. Okay, so if you have an exit sign like the Cleverfit, it's going to be maintained. Okay, but maintained can be switched live, or it can remain on all the time. Okay. So that's maintained, all right? So now we have the sustained function, okay? Which is this function right here. So this is sustained, okay? Which is sometimes also referred to as combined non-maintained, okay? That could be referred to as combined maintained or whatever. Okay, so what this is when I flick this switch, only this tube comes on, but the emergency light does not, okay? But if I unplug it, the emergency light comes on and the tube goes off. Okay, so that's basically sustained, okay? But when I plug it back in, the emergency light goes off and the tube comes back on. Okay, so it's basically like a non-maintained emergency lamp in with a regular 240 volt lamp. Okay, on the older battens with the sustained, you would have two tubes. You would have the emergency tube and you have your normal tube. Okay, but the emergency tube will remain off while there's power, and the normal tube can be used when there's power. Okay, but as soon as the power failed, the normal tube would stop working and the emergency tube would come on. It's basically the same here. Okay, so now that there's power, I can use the tube. Okay, but I unplug it, I can't use the tube, but I've got this. Okay, so that's basically what it is. Okay. Okay, and I can switch the tube off, of course. Okay, but even if the tube's off, I don't have to have that tube on for this to work. You know, I can unplug it and it will still come on even when the tube's not on. Alright, so that is the sustained function, okay, or the combined non-maintained function. Okay, so this is of course a non-maintained emergency lamp, as that one's a maintained. Okay, it basically operates a similar manner to this, the non-maintained. Okay, but you've got it in a batten. Okay, so that is referred to as sustained or combined non-maintained. Okay, so this is just non-maintained. Okay, you have two lamps, but both lamps only illuminate when there's no power. It's just like the Lifelite Pro. You've got two bulbs. Okay, but I do believe Clevertronics may come out with a sustained function or maintained in the Superlight in the future, but I do know they had the Lifelite Pro available in maintained. Okay. Okay, but this one here is just the standard Lifelite. Okay. So that's basically the three functions. Okay, you've got your so you've got your non-maintained, you got your sustained, and your maintained. Okay, so depending on the fitting, okay, and it's the same with other companies that make these. You know, it's not just Clevertronics. It's Thomas and Betts, Davis, Thorn probably, Peerlite, and all that. All their you can get them emergency lights in the three functions. Okay. Now, usually with the batten emergency lights, you get them in maintained, non-maintained, or sustained. Okay, like the old single ones, the older ones that before this came around used to be just the tube on its own. Okay, if it was non-maintained, the tube would only illuminate when the power is cut. Okay, it's just like how this super light functions. Okay, and the same for and maintained, you could use the tube, okay, as your normal light source. Okay, just like I can use this one now. Okay, so and of course with the double, you could have it in maintained, where you could use both tubes at the same time on 240 volt, even when on the 240 volt. Now be aware that the maintained double, only one tube could be used as the emergency light, not both. Okay, so technically, if this was the emergency tube, okay, it would run when there's power on. Okay, but if the power were to fail, the non-emergency tube would go off and the emergency tube would stay on until the battery went flat. Okay, but with this one here, this newer one, it operates differently because we have this. Okay, so so both of those tubes only work when the power is on, but as soon as the power fails, they just go off and this runs. Okay, until it's flat. Okay, but it will last for 5 hours. Okay, so that's basically the function of it. And all the Spitfire emergency lights, like the life lights, are generally non-maintained. Okay, or they could be maintained. Okay, but okay, and all the exit signs, like I said, they're always maintained. All right. So that's the 3 emergency light functions. You've got your non-maintained, your combined, your maintained, and your sustained. Okay, and I'll turn all 3 of these on for you. Okay, so that's power on. Okay, and power off. Okay, so this is power off and power on. All right, so that is it. So that's basically the 3 different functions. So hope you enjoyed, and that'll be it.